Strugglers, we are being spoiled silly this year with all the Berserk content we've been patiently struggling towards for decades. When Volume 42 was announced alongside a new chapter, we were excited because if you recall our Chapter 374 predictions video, we predicted that something exactly like this was going to happen. If you don't, we recommend you go check that video out and then come back to this one. But you're one of those people that hate spoilers. Well, then you're gonna have to find something else from our channel to enjoy. We recommend you go through everything, wink wink. But having said all this, let's just dive straight into it because some of this stuff we were bang on the money with, and some of it we were literally praying for. So without further ado, this is the full breakdown of Berserk Chapter 374's leaked panels. Guts' worst day becomes worse when slavers show up to, well, enslave him. What happened before Chapter 374? If you guys remember where we left things in Chapter 373, then it should come to you as no surprise that we pick up right after that in Chapter 374. But in case you don't remember, let's just give you a brief refresher course. After the destruction of Elfhelm, Casca was taken to Falconia, where she ended up becoming a mind-controlled prisoner in some corner of the castle, and Guts was hauled aboard the seahorse and put in a dank cellar to have the biggest existential crisis of his lifetime. Chapter 372 showed us how Casca was doing in Falconia, and, to put it very mildly, she's having a hard time even recognizing what is real and what is fake anymore. Griffith seems to have her in some kind of a trance, where she believes she's a Falconian noblewoman instead of being Casca, a warrior and the lover of Guts. This trance doesn't seem to be absolute, however, as we can see Casca remembering her real life on multiple occasions, and she even tries to run away from the castle all by herself because she realizes Guts needs her now more than ever. That chapter ends with her being put back into that trance and Griffith telling his most trusted apostle generals that their next objective now lies in the east. The next chapter shows us Casca was absolutely correct in fearing for Guts' mental sake, because Chapter 373 is quite possibly the lowest point in his entire journey in Berserk. If you thought Guts after the eclipse was a wreck, whew boy, you need to read Chapter 373. The man started hallucinating Griffith was walking on his sword again, because his own inner malice was taunting him for being such a weakling. Over the course of his journey, from the 100-man slayer to the Black Swordsman to the Berserk, and then somewhere in between, Guts has had to restrain himself from going all out for multiple reasons. In fact, we'd even go so far as to say that he was perhaps more lethal in the 2 years he spent all by himself when he got the Berserker armor, because during that time, his entire thought process was devoted to killing demons and filling the void in his heart with their blood. Guts became so absorbed in his mission that he didn't hesitate from using children as bait or laughing off the death of others on his own account, as he believed that they were weaklings either way. Guts viewed people as ants, and we can honestly say that had Puck not found him in Koka, he would probably still be crushing them underneath the heel of his boot. It is because Guts found things to protect once again that he now fights with a burden that dulls the edge of his blade. Initially, merely thinking about Griffith would trigger Guts' Berserker armor, but by the time he got to Elfhelm, not even Griffith himself showing up could get the guy to go into a rage-filled rampage. According to the Beast of Darkness, it is this restraint that took away Guts' edge from him, as what made him withstand broken ribs, crushed fingers, and nearly spineless, even without the Berserker armor, was his inner malice. According to the Beast, Guts needs to give himself over entirely to it, not the behelit he keeps carrying around like a morbid souvenir or an astral activity detector. This, coupled with the fact that Guts can't believe his swordsmanship let him down at his most desperate hour of need, makes him fall to the ground face first in a state of despair so intense, if he were ordained by causality, all of us would be worried. It is in this state that a crew of what looks like Kushan slavers boards the seahorse and takes everyone hostage. This was made easier by Shirka's little astral trip to Falconia, because most of the crew was gathered around her to give her support both emotionally and metaphysically. The Kushan boys rounded up everyone on the ship, and the chapter ends when they find a broken Guts lying by himself in a dark room, gripping the Dragon Slayer as the silhouette of the Berserker armor creeps up his back. Now, in our predictions video, we had postulated two reasons behind the arrival of these Kushan. One was that Griffith sent them to mop up the high seas off his Elfham disaster, and two was that these were Kushan warriors not related to Falconia but to another faction entirely, one that is possibly going to end up allying with Guts and co. in the grand scheme of things. It turns out that the leaks confirm the latter theory, which we were more in favor of since we read chapter 373 the first time. It turns out that the Kushan boys are here to rescue the crew, and they brought an old friend. What will happen in chapter 374? The chapter picks back up right after chapter 373 and shows us that the Kushan warriors that boarded the Seahorse weren't there to fight. They were there to take hostages. This is because we see them securing all the people they come across on the Seahorse and not throwing anyone overboard or outright killing them, like they would have under Emperor Ganishka. It turns out that there are more than one Kushan galleys out to get the Seahorse, as the number of people that take over the ship far outnumber the crew of the Seahorse. Most of these leaks seem to be from the Kushan's perspective, as we see the cliffhanger from chapter 373 playing out a bit more extensively over here, and we were right in thinking that they were here to help out Guts in some way, or at least knew who he was, because they brought chains with them and used some kind of Sanskrit incantation to try to bind him with them. As these chains make their way towards Guts, we see that everybody from Elfham and the Black Swordsman party, and even Roderick's men, were all safe, but cowering in the face of this unknown enemy who was clearly here to do something bad to them, given the situation. You must remember that most people on that ship don't know what a Kushan is, and the ones that do think of them as invaders and foreign savages. But as the title of this section suggests, the real reason the Kushan boys have arrived in style is because they are actually here on a rescue mission, and that is proven by the shadowy silhouette of Silat and his tapasa that you can see over here, and the appearance of the greatest pimp in the Berserk verse, Rickert. If you guys have seen our predictions video, and really you should go watch it, a lot of this will make a lot more sense that way. Then you will remember we speculated the Kushan in chapter 373 could have been sent by Silat. After all, the Bakiraka prince escaped Falconia with Rickard, Erika and Daiba in tow, and that was at least 30 chapters, aka a lifetime ago. The amount of time that was spent between Rickard's slap of the century, his subsequent escape from Falconia, and Griffith's destruction of Elfham is vague, but clearly it was enough time for Rickard to familiarize himself with his new hosts, because he's decked out in Kushan armor in chapter 374. But this is great news, because it finally means that we are in the end game of Berserk. Volume 42 is rumored to be the end of the fantastic arc, with the next one being the final arc in all of Berserk. And if that arc begins with every person that knows the truth about Griffith and his new world all in one place, then causality has truly started converging upon our heads, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't look like Ricky's new melanin-skinned friends succeeded in holding back Guts with their magical chains, because we see the Black Swordsman's foot step out of the cell it had been sulking in for over a year now, and it looks like the Berserker is active. But thankfully, our previous prediction that we might see Guts go berserk when we return to the series, this time we are more optimistic for the future of the Seahorse's crew, with Rickard, Silat, the Tapasa, Farnese, Isidro, Serpico present on board, and the first two probably having understood the powers of the Berserker armor from Daiba, the Grand Wizard. It stands to reason this rescue crew might just escape unscathed from its encounter with Guts in Berserk mode. But they just as well might end up having to rescue themselves, because if Guts has finally listened and given in to his inner malice, he truly thinks there is no other way to achieve his heart's desire anymore. Bringing him out of that trance-like state without Shirka and the Moonlit Boy is practically impossible, unless Farnese can pull a miracle out of a thorny vines somehow. It looks like the next step is going to be understanding how to calm down Guts long enough for the entire good guy crew to brainstorm a way to finally dispose of Griffith once and for all. We would like to wish the Kushan boys luck and give them our condolences in advance, because if history has shown us anything, it is that Guts will take down at least 100 men with him before he tires out, and that's without him being spurred on by a rage-inducing, limit-breaking demon armor. But having struggled to get to this point for years, we are not going to give up on him now. Marvelous verdict. Our full Chapter 374 breakdown video will be posted sometime soon, so we recommend that you guys hit the notification bell and turn the setting to always so you don't miss it when it comes out. Judging by the panels we've seen and discussed in this video, it appears as though, for once, causality might work out in the favor of the good guys. But of course, a lot of struggling needs to be done in order to fully realize that dream. What did you think of these chapter leaks? Let us know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and share the video with your fellow strugglers, and we'll see you soon.